Hi, good morning. My name is Johan van Zyl, and today we will be talking about binocular vision dysfunction, or just simply BVD. Now, what is binocular vision dysfunction? It's three big words, but bi means two. So binocular means the two eyes, which somewhere along the line isn't working together properly as a team. So, binocular vision dysfunction, traditionally, it's just been said that it's a teaming problem between the two eyes. That is the simple explanation. The two eyes don't work together properly. And it's certainly the essence of any BVD problem. But it can actually relate to quite a few aspects of how the two eyes work together. So let's just have a bit of a chat about what is BVD first. Now, firstly, you have your two eye muscles, okay? And there's 6 eye muscles in both eyes, and these things must be pointed at the same target for you to be able to see. And similar to something like a pair of binoculars, which is made very good, and the two parts of the binocular is actually pointing at the same target. Now imagine your binocular wasn't made properly, and these two is actually at an angle like that, or maybe at an angle like this. Now, this is what sometimes can happen with binocular vision dysfunction. These two tubes, these two eyeballs, these two eye muscles of yours, the two eyes aren't pointing at the same object. That is one of the first things that can happen. And we call that an eye motor problem. So the eye muscles somewhere is out of alignment, and they're not pointing at the same thing in all directions of gaze, because sometimes they can point at something that is correct when they're up or down or sideways, but not in all the angles of gaze. Now, the next thing is coming back to the good old binocular here. Now, imagine now you have they made another mistake, and in the one side of the tube, they put a different lens to in the other side. So on the one side, imagine you have an eye like that, okay? And on the other side, you have something like this. Now, we all know that you have to focus your binocular. So that's what a basic eye test does. It focuses each individual eye. But if the eyes are very different, sometimes the brain cannot actually get these two images fused into one. Now, that can also cause a BVD problem if the image sizes aren't the same. But lastly, what can also happen is that sometimes you have all of these things right. The eyes are pointing at the same spot, the prescriptions are fine, but you might have a traumatic brain injury or you've had a bad fall, and somewhere in the middle, somewhere in your brain, these two images now isn't being fused properly together. Now, I tell my patients, it's like, your binoculars, imagine you have a fall with these things, and one of these little prisms inside moves. So everything is fine, the tubes are pointing in the same space, the prescriptions are right, but somewhere along the line, now these pathways are now not right, not correct. Now, any of those things can cause a binocular vision problem. So in general, what's BVD? It is the inability of the two eyes to work together as a team, irrespective of where the problem lies, be it muscular, a motor problem, be it sensory, or be it a fusion problem or an integration problem in the brain between the two images. Any of those things can actually cause a BVD problem or is a BVD problem. Now, which type of patients, who's more at risk, and what type of patients might develop a BVD problem? Now, if we look at our patients in the practice, we see BVD across all age groups. I mean, literally, we've seen BVD with children, teenagers, adults, and seniors, people that's a bit older. It's actually quite common for people that's older to develop BVD. And of course, also there's a subcategory of patients who's had a fall, maybe a concussion, that's had a TBI, traumatic brain injury, who can also develop BVD intermittently, suddenly, and then it goes away. So we see BVD across the range. Now, when it comes to children, very often BVD is misdiagnosed as a learning problem, because what we see in their symptoms is, they're looking at something, they struggle to read, and very often it's a question of, the child's a bit slow, or he struggles to concentrate, or just don't worry, we'll give him some tabs for the learning problem, and don't worry about that. But you cannot give a brain tablet for a BVD problem. You cannot give something like Ritalin or Concerta if your child has got a convergence problem, or he's got undiagnosed hyperopia, or he's got a vertical phoria. That doesn't simply work. And it's sometimes very difficult to test children's eyes, simply because you can't always get proper subjective feedback. So yes, we see it at children, we see teenagers, and very often teenagers, we find that there's some adaptation already that's occurred. So the teenager has learned that when he wants to read, he actually concentrates a bit better by hearing. So he becomes sometimes less hearing, more hearing effective than visually effective. So his ability to absorb information through the visual system is a bit compromised, and that is the most important symptom which we find across all types of patients who has an undiagnosed BVD problem, is that their ability to absorb information is actually compromised. They tend to stare at things, or evade reading, do something else. And it doesn't matter if you're a teenager, an adult, or even a senior, very often inadvertently you look for other activities, because when you are reading a book or studying, you tend to struggle. Your effort involved to absorb information just goes through the sky normally. So you have to work really hard, and there's no real tests to actually measure how much effort people that's got BVD, how much effort is involved to absorb information. There's not a test like that. But all we see in the practice is that patients that have undiagnosed binocular vision dysfunction, they all tend to struggle when it comes to reading, the absorption of information from computers, from a screen, from mobile phones, from normal text, book. Now, as I said, we find that BVD, you get across all spectrums of ages, and the symptoms can sometimes change depending on how long it's been there, and of course, how old you are. Sometimes there's adaptation, but in general, the one thing which is like a golden thread across all age groups, be it children, teenagers, adults, and seniors, is that all of them tend to eventually, I won't say give up, but it's just difficult to do that sustained, concentrated reading. And you often find people complain that say, I'm reading something and then I got to go back and reread it. Or what they would do is they would read something and they would actually quietly speak it out as well, so they can see and hear, because they've learned that if they can actually hear something, their ability to absorb information is improved. Now, who's really at risk for this type of problems. Now, if you've had a problem at birth, you are at risk. If you had like maybe a squint when you were young, even if it was just temporary, you're also at risk. If you had some bad falls when you were young, you are at risk. If you are undiagnosed hyperopia, and there's a whole video about undiagnosed hyperopia on my YouTube channel, you are at risk of developing a binocular vision dysfunction. If you have two eyes that differ greatly in prescription, then you are also at risk of developing BVD. When you get older and you're on certain medications, or if you've had a stroke, you are also at risk of developing BVD. Now, what do we do in our practice when we actually examine a patient who we suspect might have BVD? And of course, the first thing is we do a thorough case history. We literally check everything. Case history is very, very important. We don't put our patients behind a automated computer testing eyes, because that doesn't give me information about what's going on. We do retinoscopy on every single patient in our practice. But it's not good enough to just read letters or numbers off a screen with each individual eye. That's not good enough. Even like if you do it binocular once or twice, remember a testing room is not the normal world. You're not moving through the world. You're not working at your computer. You're not walking in a mall where there's lighting going downstairs, driving in a car. That is where normally we find people struggling. Maybe vertigo, dizziness, things are moving around, letters are moving around, they struggle to absorb information. All of these things are very difficult to determine if it's an eye problem, if it's a binocular vision problem, because most often people say it comes and goes. It depends on what's going on. I recently asked somebody who had some symptoms with BVD. I said to him, how's your eyes on the weekend when you're not at your computer, when you're not having to work and sit on a chair the whole day? And the person looked at me like, now that I mentioned that, my eyes are feeling fine on the weekend. So very often, BVD is related to a specific environment, what you're doing with your eyes, with your body. Are you moving, going downstairs, driving in a car? And it can really disrupt your life, and it is terrible actually if it gets bad, and it gets bad like suddenly and it just carries on, because it can also be intermittent. So what do we do when we are now examining a patient who we suspect has got BVD? The first thing we would do is a thorough case history. And with a thorough case history, we very often also ask our patients to complete the dizziness handicap inventory sheet. You can go and Google that, and just, it's a couple of questions, and it'll give you a good idea of how you're feeling, because you have to describe. They've got some really interesting questions on this form. So we do a thorough case history. And then in the practice, as I said, we do not actually put a patient behind a automated computer testing equipment. I like to literally look at the patient's eyes, look at what's going on, looking at the pupils. We do retinoscopy. So retinoscopy is an objective method where we can actually test the patient's prescription with each individual eye. And then we start off with our binocular vision testing. Now, my favorite test is the cover tests. There's subcategories of the cover test, but doing the cover test certainly, in my opinion, is critical. So, and what type of BVD problems do we find is often actually, missed? Small vertical forias, which the cover test can show you very quickly. So, this is one thing which we do find. And when it comes to that type of things, what is the typical symptoms which the patients, again, as I said, might have? It can come and go a lot, but we normally look at like 2 or 3 types of symptoms. The first is just pure visual. And as I mentioned, the most important one is your inability to sustain concentration and your inability to absorb information. That is the most important visual symptom. But then you also get things like dizziness, things are moving, the letters are swimming, you're looking up at the moon, it's a little bit double. So there's literally 101 other visual symptoms which goes with BVD. But most of these things is actually most often intermittent, and it comes and goes depending on have you slept, what's going on with your body and your eyes, what are you doing, and this is why it's so difficult to actually diagnose if it's a BVD problem, because there's no clear indication sometimes of what's going on. You really have to go and search to see if there's a problem. And that's one of the other things we do in the practice, is we spend time with our patients, because this, especially if it's not diagnosed, it can really have dramatic effects on your life. It's not pleasant. I went through it after my retinal detachment. I just woke up one day and I was going, what was going on, and I couldn't converge. It was only later on I realized that, the moment I had my retinal detachments and both my eye lenses removed, my convergence system went for a bit of a belly up, because there's a link between the intraocular muscle and your muscles that converge. So what do we see in the practice? We see these visual symptoms, but then we also see some postural adaptations. Now, what is postural adaptations? If you are struggling to see properly, because your vision is so important for your life, for your survival, for your ability to absorb information from the distance, because vision is the only sense that is distance independent. Just listen to that. Distance independent. You can see the moon, but you can't hear the moon, touch the moon, smell the moon. You can see the moon. So vision is really so important that your vision is integrated in your brain. It works with all your systems, because it's the thing that can give you time. It can give you time to make decisions when it comes to being in danger or not. And if you want to do a quick test, just do yourself a favor in your house, just close your eyes totally and just walk fast around the house. And you'll see it's just about impossible. You don't think about these things. But vision can affect your whole life. So when it comes to like symptoms, we have this vision symptoms, and then we have these physical symptoms: shoulders, neck, head tilts. So your eyes, if they are slightly skew, if you've got a small squint, your head will tend to move until you can try and align these two images manually. Now, we see that. If you've had like a vestibular problem, if your gimbals in your ears aren't working properly, that smooths your vision out, you would also have a BVD problem, because your vestibular system and your binocular system works hand in hand. So you have all these, you can even develop balance problems. I went through everything literally. Proprioception, vestibular, and binocular vision. I had to do all the exercises. I had to educate myself because this all happened to me. So yes, your vision actually, it goes through your body. Your vision helps to keep you upright, balanced, moving around the world comfortably. That in your vestibular system and of course, your vestibular spinal reflex all automatically works together. But if one of those systems, and in this case, if your binocular vision system isn't working properly, you have to work so hard to try and just get everything smooth and just working comfortably. And this is what we see. We see patients just being visually tired, their concentration not good. They would rather be doing either nothing or being outside somewhere else where you don't need, either swimming, but where you don't have to rely on your balance, your vestibular or your vision system to such a high degree. So those are the typical symptoms we find amongst our patients. And as I said, if there's one single one I can actually say, it's the absorption of information which goes down. That, and very often we have postural adaptations. Now, looking at our patients, once we've now diagnosed where the problem is being maybe a convergence inefficiency, which is quite common, or a vertical phoria, and as I said, if you've had a small squint, you need to make sure that the prescriptions are balanced. So it's not just important looking straight with each eye, it's also having a balanced system. And how do I explain that to the patients? Very simply, for the males, I would explain to them that imagine you buy yourself a lovely vehicle, and then you go and buy yourself chuck the new tires away, and you put some second-hand rethreads on your cars, put some tires on, but you don't have it balanced or wheel aligned. Now, you know what I'm talking about. That car, that vehicle, if you don't have the right tires, if it's not balanced, not wheel aligned, you're going to struggle to keep that thing straight. It's going to be effort to actually, especially at a high speed, to keep this car not bobbing around and in a straight line. And this is precisely what your eyes now need to do when you are struggling to concentrate. They just need more effort. And there's no single test that measures how much effort you have. Unfortunately not. But this is what's involved, is that your eyes and your ears and your body all needs to now work much harder to keep that information flow going. And again, going back to the vehicle story, if you're having a lazy day and say you're driving your car at 60 miles or kilometers an hour, it's not too bad. But if you go to 120 or 100 miles an hour, you're going to find it's impossible to actually drive that vehicle. And this is what happens to one's eyes and body if you need to concentrate for sustained periods of time. And sometimes it's distance dependent. Now, one of the most important things we look at when we also have our patients in our chair is we ask them if they've got an iPhone, because your iPhone actually measures how good you walk. Now, that, in my opinion, is one of the finest ways to look at your ability for health. Because if your vision or vestibular system or proprioception is not working well, it affects how you walk. If you're ill, if you haven't slept, it affects how good you move through the world. So on the iPhone, if you go to your health app and you look at walking asymmetry, I recently made a video of mine. My walking asymmetry, when I discovered this, was over 40% asymmetrical walking. I went through proprioception, binocular vision, and vestibular improvements, and it's now just about symmetrical, my walking. But if I'm not feeling well, or I don't do my eye exercises, I can actually see my asymmetrical walking become a little bit worse. So when we look at our patients then, we normally do a balancing of the whole visual system. We check the motor system, we check the sensory system, we check the integration between the two eyes in the brain. Then we would normally give our patients most often prism spectacles. It takes a couple of weeks to make these things. Then they would wear their glasses, and then we would start the visual therapy part. So any binocular vision patient, we most often recommend that you do your specs and that you do visual therapy. And a lot of the visual therapy can actually be done at home. So it's something that you can do quite easily, and you can monitor it by using your iPhone. And on the Google Play Store, I think it's called One Step, but I just prefer the iPhone simply because I know it. And then the patients actually become quite motivated because they can see by just wearing their phone on their hip They can see their improvement in stability. Now, if we can reduce your risk, especially if you're older, if you're a senior person over 60 or 65, if we can reduce your risk by falling, by just balancing your eyes and giving you visual therapy, isn't that great? So we've had some really good results. And this is what we do in the practice when we have a patient in our chair that might have a binocular vision dysfunction problem. Now, if you've watched until here, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.